Hey, and welcome back to Talk a Better Worlds. I'm SirFelixTheCat, and this is Nerd Talk Thursday. So there's this weird conversation that's been going around online that I don't really understand fully. At least I don't understand where they're coming from when they say this. And that's that games today just aren't as good as games back then. And now, one side of the argument would be is if you're purely just talking about AAA games. Because as we've seen lately, not many AAA games have been like the bangers that we're kind of expecting them to be. Part of that is also we're hyping them up ourselves along with the talking heads for these companies, hyping them up beyond expectation. Like, you see that moon? You can fly there too. That kind of thing. It's what got No Man's Sky in a lot of trouble when it first dropped. There were just these super lofty promises coming out of Hello Games, and unfortunately, everything wasn't met at that time. Is it there now? Absolutely. But back then, it just wasn't. But let's go ahead and take a look at why I feel that games are basically just as good as they were back then. Like, yeah, we have advancements. Let me get this out of the way. We do have advancements, like graphically. Absolutely. I mean, it'd be dumb to say that's not true. Go look at an NES game and then look at a like PS5 Pro game or a game on PC that's new that looks significantly better. That's a side thing, though. That's not part of this conversation, really. Controls. Yes, controls have gotten better. Again, go back to like Atari, NES. You were very limited with your movement. Now you can do just everything you want with movement. Okay, now that stuff's out of the way. Let's talk about the real discussion. And I am going to go back to NES. And part of it isn't just controls, but we're going to compare games from back then to games today. First one I want to start with is Prince of Persia. I don't know if you ever played the original Prince of Persia, and what you're seeing on the screen right now is actually from Game Boy Advance. But it's just the same game, better color. That's really it. And this game is, I mean, it's inspired games somehow. I mean, it's not the greatest thing ever. It was interesting premise, I guess, but game is pretty hot trash. I mean, you can see you have to turn around backwards to climb down something, so at least they got like realism of movement down. I commend that. But this game is just super jank. Super jank. And so we're going to say that, games back then were better. I don't know. I mean, look at that, and now you're going to see Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown. This is a newer game. And just look at the movement. Movement's better. Combat is amazing. I mean, games today have more story and lore to them. Like, yeah, we have RPGs from back in the day. We have games like the Dragon Quest series. Back in the day, Dragon Quest, it was cool. I love playing 1, 2, and 3. I love 4, 5, and 6. All of them are great games. But with advancements we have today, games are just significantly better. In that sense, at least. Compare Dragon Quest 1 to Dragon Quest 11. It's come such a long way. It's improved in basically every way imaginable. The biggest way I would say is it lets you know what you were doing. You're not just completely screwed if you decide to take like a week off playing a game. I don't know about you, but I've played a lot of NES games like NES RPGs, Final Fantasy games, Dragon Quest, stuff like that. If you take a break and didn't like note down exactly what you're doing, what you're supposed to be doing next, you're screwed. Like you're starting that game over. Unless you're willing just to walk around and talk to every single person in the whole game until you figure out what you're supposed to be doing. It was a product of its time. I understand that. I'm not being stupid here. But it's hard to say that the games were definitively better back then. To be like, oh, all retro gaming is better than modern day gaming. Not true. Yes, we get a lot of slop today. We get a ton of slop. We get the AI made slop. We get all these pervy games that are on the eShop and on Steam and all those other consoles. I'm pretty sure Xbox has the issue. Actually, I haven't seen it on Xbox. I've seen it on PlayStation, though. Some of them. But I know Nintendo eShop and Steam definitely have their flood of just pervy hentai games that nobody wants to play. And if you do, I'm questioning why you are doing that. It's a little weird. But we have games that do more. They're more full story. There's so much more you can do in a game today. It makes it genuinely just more fun. And that's the whole point of this conversation, is were games more fun back in the day than they are today? And no, just absolutely not. You have bad games from back then. You have great games from back then. You have bad games today, and you have great games today. And plus, there's also the whole thing of, it depends on what you like. You might not be a big fan of Starfield, but I know there are some people who just absolutely love that game. I mean, I'm not really one of them. I couldn't get into it. It made me kind of sad because I do like the Bethesda format, but that game to me was just dead. I had more fun on the side quests than I did on the main mission. Main story was just boring. The end game was just boring. But we do have good games today. Avowed just came out. I love that game. At first, when I talked about it on another video, when I ranked Obsidian and Black Isle and I forget the other name of the other studio, started with a T. But when I ranked those, I talked about Avowed at the end. That game is fantastic, and a lot of people did miss it. They missed 90% of the game. They just flew through the main story, did no side quests, didn't understand that your characters do have conversations that mean something. There's a lot of lore to go through. There's books to read. The side quests are probably the most beautiful thing of it. There's at least companion quests, I should say. You have at least one for the first character you get, and then there's another one that comes in way later. Other ones, you might have done a companion quest before you got them, and you just can't comprehend the fact that the companion quest doesn't have to be after you get them. Maybe you did something to help them to where they wanted to join you. That's still a companion quest. It was just for the sake of getting that person. That's your companion. That was their quest. What does that make it? Companion quest. Yeah, those reviewers who didn't play that game just upset me. But anyways, I originally gave that a 7 out of 10. I'm now giving it 8 out of 10. After I beat it, I saw all the small stuff. I also walked through it. I didn't run through it, didn't like sprint from point A to point B. I took my time. I explored. I looked around. I took in the scenery. I saw things at the end of the game that I'm sure people just completely missed. Just absolutely missed. I mean, I just shy of 100% in that game. Well, not 100% because I didn't get all the achievements, but at least doing every mission you could, like every quest you could in the game. The only one I didn't do was one of the final maps in the 4th chapter of the game. I couldn't be bothered. I looked up what the weapon was when I decided not to do it, and I was like, well, I'm glad I didn't do that because it's just a waste of time. I'm just going to grab it and break it down anyways. Why do I want to get that? But, and it was a dagger, by the way, and I didn't use daggers. I was an archer who then switched over to a rifle once I had the star medal made and all that. If you played the game, you might know what I'm talking about. But, yeah, that is a fantastic game. That's an example of a good game today. Just a great game. That is going to be my game of the year for 2025. Like, at least a game that came out. Might not be my favorite game that I played in 2025, because I am going to play some other games that I've been itching to get back to. But, I lie. It's probably going to be my game of the year. It's going to be the best game I played this year. I completely feel that. If you guys don't know, we're doing this challenge on the channel to at least completely beat 12 games this year, and then just add on after that to see who can have the most. Avowed made my game number 6, so yeah, I'm doing pretty good for the beginning of the year. But anyways, back to being on the topic of games being better then than they are now. I feel like most of that is just nostalgia. Nostalgia is getting us and grabbing us by the cojones, and we're just like falling for it. And there's no logic to that, especially if you're not going to go back and play those games. You may have like a certain attachment to a game. Like there's a YouTuber I like to watch, Eric Landon, and he absolutely loves Chrono Cross. And I hate the game. That's an example of someone who loves something and someone who doesn't. I've gone back and played it, and I still don't think it's a great game. I can say the combat holds up. Like, the idea of their combat system holds up. But, still, to me, not a great game. But maybe when it came out, the remake, or remaster, I should say, not remake, he probably gave it a high score, and I gave it a low score. It's whatever. You're going to have those issues. But you can go back and say, like, hey, Chrono Cross is the best game ever. And I don't know about that. Or actually, not Chrono Cross, Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger is the best game ever. And I'm not positive on that one. Is it a great RPG, and did it inspire a lot of RPGs moving forward? Yes. Do I love the story? Yes. Are there games better than it? Yeah. Like, yeah, I'm sorry to break that to you, but it's true. There's no way around that. It's absolutely true. I'm probably pissing a lot of people off with that one, but there's no other answer to that question. There are games better than it. Is Ocarina of Time the best Zelda ever made? I don't know. I mean, it's a good story. It's the best groundwork we had for Zelda up to that point. It was better than the next game that came out. I like Skyward Sword, but because it was on the Wii originally and it had the stupid Wiimote controls, it made Ocarina of Time look better. But then we got Breath of the Wild, and people love that game. Like, I don't understand why, but people love that game. A game with no story, super extremely breakable weapons, and just annoyance after annoyance. Great game. Do I think that game's fun? No. Do I think Ocarina of Time is fun? Yeah. Am I going to say that Ocarina of Time is definitively better than Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom? No. Sadly, I'm not, even though you think I would, because I just said I don't care for the games. They offer their two different things. Everything about Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom sadly does beat out Ocarina of Time. It's just what it is. It's got better combat. It's got better movement. It's got better everything. Except for story. Let me say that. Except for story, Breath of the Wild has no story. I don't care what you say. He fell asleep, she turned into a dragon, you fight a boss. That's not a great story. All the other talking was just dumb and pointless. Except for going to the Zora Kingdom. I did like that little part. It was a throwback to Ocarina of Time, in my opinion. There's other games that we can look at to see, like, games were not great back then, besides Prince of Persia. I know I got completely off topic there for a minute. I'm going to go back to it. But we have Pitfall. Pitfall was not great. Did people love it? I guess. I don't know why. There was the original Zelda. It's not great. It's iconic? Yes. Great? No. People loved it. We have the first Mario game. Is it great? I mean, it's influential. It is a staple in platforming. But is it a great game? Not really. We got better as we went. We got better with, heck, Super Nintendo did better. And then we had Mario Sunshine, which is whatever. Then you get up to the Switch. You get to the modern 3D platformers of it. Or even the 2D platformers. Yeah, Mario Wonder. Those are definitively better games than what we had back then. They are more fun. I don't understand this part where we think that older games were always more fun. And yeah, we do have our fair share, like I said earlier, of games that are not fun today. Ones that I don't think are fun by themselves, keep that in mind, by themselves on a just base game level, Fortnite. You may have fun with your friends playing it, but take out your friends. Take out other people. Are you having fun with the game? Like, take them just completely out of consideration. Are you having fun with the game? Probably not. Probably not. Especially if you got rid of like a leaderboard for a lot of people, they're going to stop playing the game. They can't be the best. That would probably just destroy them. And that goes on for like all the shooters. I just use Fortnite because it's the biggest one, essentially. But you have Apex Legends, you have Overwatch. It's all the same thing. Like if you just swapped out all those people for NPCs, just their enemy NPCs, are you having as much fun as you did then? No. There's no story to the game. There's no plot besides just shoot, 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 run around, randomly build. It's not fun on a base level. It's the player interactions, like with other players, that made your game, in your mind, fun. That's why you and your friends play it, because it's you and your friends. I don't consider that to be a great game on its own. Just, there's no way it could be. But you have Call of Duty. Call of Duty was better back then than it is now. I mean, that's my opinion. Now it's just kind of like this bloated budget, 10 billion gigabytes in order to download. It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. And especially with Modern Warfare, 3? The DLC that they ended up making a full game and charging people full game amount for what was literally just a DLC with some trash thrown in. That, in my mind, makes Call of Duty better back then. But everything else about Call of Duty, go play like one of the Black Ops games from the past couple years. Apparently the campaign, I didn't play it, but the campaign of Black Ops 6 is apparently really good. And you know what? That's what it needed. It needed a good campaign. Campaigns in the old ones were, they were interesting. They were probably better games all around besides the campaign. But that campaign is what a lot of people do go for it. Yeah, you have your crowd who are like, oh, I just do it to be PvP because that's all I know. I have to be the best. I have to go, frag these noobs. But the game itself was meant to be that single player game with the add-on of multiplayer. Even though they seem to be pushing multiplayer mainly for the most part, you have this over-reliance on other players to make your game great when you could have just done the good campaigns like you did in this new Black Ops game. These other ones, I feel like the past few Call of Duties have just been a pure reliance on other people making your game great. It has to be the other players who make it fun for people. That's not great game design. It isn't. It just isn't. We can't say that games are better now than they were then. We can't say they're better then than they are now. Both have slop. Both have major issues. If you're looking at just the AAA games again, a lot of them are trash. AAA has gone far downhill. That is true. But you have indie games. You have still like the AA studios, these smaller groups that make just pure gold. Pure gold. And we don't look at them. We, for some reason, as like the general public, at least for talking heads, we don't consider them to be part of the gaming industry. So we'll say like, oh, the gaming industry is crashing right now. It's just crashing because we're looking at just AAA studios, which is such a small amount. It takes a AAA studio like 15 years to put out a game for some reason, for some unknown reason. It takes them 15 years plus $10 billion a day in order to get this out. We have over-bloated budgets. Half of it doesn't even go to the game. It's just going to somebody so they could buy more yachts, so they could buy more property. They could buy another house. They could buy another car. That's got to stop. That's absolutely got to stop. That is destroying the AAA game market. 100%. You people who are paying so much. And then you have the companies saying like, oh yeah, well, we're looking at charging $100 for a game. Is that because you can't control your budget? Is that a you issue, so you're taking it out on the consumer? How about you correct that? Correct that, get your games in line. Yes, I understand these people do hard work and they do deserve money, but if you go on and look at budgets of these people, you will see some insane things, like how much they get paid. Okay, so here we have Activision Blizzard. At least this is from older ones, this is still Bobby Kotick. But this guy, in 2019, his total compensation was $30.1 million. In 2022, he received a $375 million payout from Microsoft. In 2023, he was set to receive another $14 million, but he had already stepped down. Like, it's absurd. It is absolutely absurd how much those people are getting paid. Not the developers themselves, the ones who are making like maybe $50,000 a year. 50 to 120,000. That's within reason. That is absolutely within reason. I respect that because a lot of them are getting crunch time, so they deserve more than someone who's working. Oh, I can't say that. Everybody deserves a fair wage. But not all of us have that same crunch time. Yes, if you're working in like retail or something like that, you're getting under a lot of crunch time constantly. Like, that is your job. Your job is literally just crunch time. Work. It gets very old, especially if it's in a busy place. But that part aside, these people are doing hard work. They have a lot of times terrible working conditions because of that crunch time, that brutal crunch time, which breaks into their personal lives. Like, very bad. It can crush some people. It's soul crushing work at that point. But outside of that, like, they do deserve that money. Or I guess not outside of that, including that, they do deserve a decent amount of money. They deserve the $120,000 a year. But these heads, these talking heads who are doing literally nothing, like, they don't do jack, and they're making just absurd amounts of money, that's got to stop. That is why you have such an issue with the AAA market. We can say whatever we want. We can say it's Game Pass, because Game Pass does have a little bit to do with it. Like, it is preventing these studios from making the money they could make off of game sales. They've trained the Xbox user base to understand you don't have to buy games anymore. Well, if you want to make it profitable for all these studios, you need to start charging, like, I don't know, $80-$90 a month for this to be profitable for them. Make them get money off their games. And not tank, well, I mean, you're Microsoft, so you have like the world's money. But to at least make it profitable for the studios. So you don't have to be like, I'm sorry, you made a hit game. We're going to close you down now. Which, I'm not talking about Hi-Fi Rush or anything, which is exactly what happened. Made a hit game and got closed down. But if they had been charging like, $90+ a month, they would absolutely not have to close that studio down. Amazing. And that's a AAA game publisher now. I guess that's what we call Xbox game publisher. I don't know. But our main issue is, yes, games are good then, games are good now, games were bad back then, games are bad today. It's still the exact same thing. Just quit focusing on one market, and that's AAA. Look at all games in general. Did we have a bad year for Nintendo? No, Nintendo still did great. Like, it's under their projection, but they still did great. And that's one thing we also aren't taking into consideration. A lot of this stuff is happening, like these big failures and layoffs, most of them. There have been some in Japan, but most of them, and that's also because of laws. But we have a lot of them that are happening just mainly here in the US. Like, it's these Western studios that are just falling apart, getting destroyed. Or at least, like, the headquarters might be based here or something like that, or even in Europe. They're the ones that are getting destroyed. It's not the Japanese studios who are still doing what they do, still putting out good games, but we're just not going to consider that to be AAA because it's not under the name of Microsoft, it's not under the name of PlayStation. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. The game market is fine. AAA, yeah, they're hurting because they need to get their shit together. That's just what it comes down to. But we need to stop the conversation of like, oh, it's always better back then. Don't let nostalgia blind you. Just don't. There are some good games from back then. Yes. There are some good games today. Yes. Stop it. Stop the stupid argument. There is no ground behind it. Like, at all. At all. It's very just focused on one thing, but relating it to the whole thing. You can't do that. It just doesn't make any sense. Anyways, I've rambled on back and forth about this for, 25 minutes now. And yeah, if you made it this far, thank you very much for listening to me ramble on. Let me know how you feel about this. give us a like, subscribe, like I said, comment, let me know what you're thinking about it. Do you agree with me? Do you think I'm just completely off base, and because AAA itself is dying, that all games are dying right now, that the game industry is just falling apart at the seams? Or do you see what I see, and that the overall game market is doing fine? Just AAA studios need to understand they can't keep just making absurd amounts of money. We can't keep screwing over the fans too with microtransactions and this battle pass plus this tier of battle pass, plus you got to get this battle pass too, because if you don't have all 20 of them, then you're just not going to make anything. You're going to get like one little crumb of stuff a week, and that's not cool. You got to get stuff every day, and it's just old. It's old. I don't get it. But yeah, let me know what you think, and until next time, you take care. Hey, thanks for watching.
Give us a like if you enjoyed it, and dislike it if you didn't.
Let us know what you think about the channel.
And don't forget to subscribe.